The double agent who fooled MI6 for 20 years. The George Blake story. Hello my friends, today we enjoy story about. In the high-stakes world of espionage, betrayal is expected, but rarely does it last for decades. This is the unbelievable story of a man who worked inside Britain's most secret intelligence agency, MI6, while secretly serving its enemy. A man who handed over hundreds of agents to the Soviet Union. A man who escaped prison in broad daylight and fled behind the Iron Curtain. A man whose betrayal shocked the entire Western intelligence community. This is the true story of George Blake, the double agent who fooled MI6 for over 20 years. Early life and the making of a spy. George Blake was born in Rotterdam, Netherlands, in 1922. His father was a naturalized British citizen, his mother Dutch. Raised in a multinational household, Blake was fluent in several languages, a perfect foundation for the world of intelligence. During World War II, Blake joined the Dutch resistance against the Nazis. Later, he escaped to Britain and was recruited by the Special Operations Executive, and then by MI6, the UK's Foreign Intelligence Service. He seemed like the ideal recruit, smart, loyal, multilingual, and brave. But what no one knew was that Blake's loyalties would soon take a dramatic and dangerous turn. A radical transformation in Korea in the 1950s. During the Korean War, Blake was posted to Seoul as part of his MI6 duties. But when North Korean forces overran the city in 1950, Blake was captured and spent 3 years in a North Korean prison camp. It was there, under harsh conditions and constant ideological exposure, that something changed. Blake later claimed he was not coerced or tortured, but that he had a change of heart. He became convinced that communism offered the only hope for equality and justice. So, in captivity, he made a life-altering decision. He volunteered to spy for the Soviet Union, returned to Britain, and secret betrayal. Upon his release in 1953, Blake returned to Britain a hero. MI6 welcomed him back without suspicion. Now, with direct access to some of Britain's most classified Cold War intelligence, Blake began one of the most devastating careers of espionage in British history. He provided the KGB with the names of every British agent operating in Eastern Europe, many of whom were later arrested, tortured, or executed. Estimates vary, but Blake is believed to have exposed over 400 agents. He also passed secrets about Western operations in Berlin, American nuclear strategy, NATO activities, top secret tunnels under East Germany like the CIA's Operation Gold for nearly a decade. MI6 had no idea that one of their own was working for the enemy. Suspicion and capture. Blake's downfall didn't come from British intelligence. It came from a defector. In 1961, Michael Galeniewski, a Polish intelligence officer who defected to the West, exposed several Soviet spies, including George Blake. MI6 was stunned. Blake was quietly arrested, interrogated, and eventually confessed. The betrayal was enormous. Blake had operated freely inside MI6 for years, devastating the West's intelligence efforts and directly leading to countless deaths. In 1961, he was tried in secret and sentenced to an unprecedented 42 years in prison, one of the longest sentences ever given in the UK. But this story was far from over. The daring escape from prison. Held in Wormwood Scrubs prison, Blake began plotting his next move. Incredibly, he befriended fellow inmates, including two peace activists and an Irish criminal, and shared his escape plan. On October 22, 1966, after serving just 5 years, Blake broke out. Using a rope ladder made of knitting needles and blankets, he climbed out a window and dropped down onto a blind spot in the prison wall. From there, he was driven out of the country in a getaway car, smuggled through France, and eventually escaped to East Germany in a camper van. From there, he made his way to Moscow, where he was greeted not as a traitor, but as a hero. Life in the Soviet Union and the USSR. Blake was given a comfortable apartment in Moscow, a new identity, a position teaching at the KGB intelligence school, full honors and awards, including the Order of Lenin. He remarried, started a family, and lived out the rest of his days in Moscow. He remained unapologetic, stating in interviews that he believed he had done the right thing. "I didn't betray my country," Blake said. "I betrayed my class." He never expressed remorse for the lives lost due to his actions. The damage done. George Blake's betrayal had devastating consequences. Dozens, possibly hundreds of agents were imprisoned or executed. Entire MI6 networks in Eastern Europe were dismantled. British intelligence was humiliated on the world stage. A deep sense of mistrust grew inside Western intelligence circles to this day. Blake is considered one of the most damaging double agents in British history. Alongside Cam, Philby and the Cambridge Five, his escape and exile added insult to injury, and he remained untouchable until his death and legacy. George Blake died in Moscow on December 26, 2020, at the age of 98. He was buried with full military honors in Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin, himself a former KGB agent, personally praised him as a brilliant professional of special strength and courage. In the West, however, Blake remains a symbol of ultimate betrayal, a reminder of the dangers that come not from outside enemies, but from trusted insiders. George Blake's story forces us to confront difficult questions. What drives a man to betray his country so completely? From within, can ideology ever justify the loss of human life? And how do intelligence agencies guard themselves against betrayal? For 2 decades, George Blake fooled one of the world's most respected spy agencies, and in doing so, he rewrote the rules of modern espionage. Call to action: like this video if real spy stories fascinate you. Subscribe for more true espionage missions, Cold War secrets, and deep dives into the shadow world of intelligence. Tap the bell so you never miss a story the history books tried to hide. Question of the day: do you think George Blake was a traitor or a man of conviction? Let us know in the comments. We read everyone. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and trust no one. See you in the next video with unique story.